an era where financial experts seemed untouchable, one man stood above them all, trusted by billionaires, praised by Wall Street, and worshipped by investors who believed he could do no wrong. Year after year, his fund delivered what everyone else only dreamed of: guaranteed profits, no losses, no questions, just results. But behind that spotless reputation was a hidden maze of lies, a $65 billion illusion built on blind trust. When the truth finally broke, billions vanished overnight. Families were ruined, charities collapsed, and Wall Street's golden boy became its greatest villain. This isn't just a story about money. It's about how even the smartest people in the world can be fooled by the illusion of certainty. This is the rise and fall of Bernie Madoff. To understand how he pulled it off, you have to understand who Bernie Madoff really was. He wasn't some shady con artist hiding behind crypto tokens or shell companies in the Bahamas. He was the opposite of that image. Bernie Madoff was the embodiment of Wall Street prestige, a man who climbed the financial ladder through charm, precision, and relentless control. He served as the chairman of NASDAQ, the heartbeat of America's stock market. He had offices in Manhattan, a pristine reputation, and a client list filled with billionaires, celebrities, and world-renowned institutions. To the outside world, he was a symbol of success: quiet, polite, methodical, the kind of man who never raised his voice yet commanded absolute trust. He didn't sell dreams, he sold certainty. And in finance, certainty is the most seductive illusion of all. That's what made him so dangerous. Not because he looked like a scammer, but because he looked like the only one you could trust. Bernie Madoff wasn't just wealthy. He was the definition of old money success. A man who lived like a ghost inside luxury. He owned multi-million-dollar penthouses in Manhattan, a mansion in Palm Beach, even a yacht floating under the Florida sun. Private jets, country clubs, high society galas, all within reach. But here's the thing, he never flaunted any of it. While Wall Street's elite bragged about their bonuses and cars, Madoff kept quiet. He didn't chase the spotlight. He didn't need to. His power came from mystique, from being the man no one could fully read. He dressed simple, spoke softly, and carried himself with the calm of someone who'd already won. To his investors, that restraint didn't look suspicious. It looked wise. They called him Mr. Consistent, because his fund delivered what seemed impossible: steady returns year after year without fail, 10, sometimes 12%, every single year. Even when markets crashed, when fortunes evaporated overnight, Madoff's clients slept soundly. Their portfolios never dipped, not even once, and that's what made it so intoxicating. In a world ruled by chaos, Madoff offered calm. While others prayed to survive the market, he appeared to control it. It was financial sorcery dressed up as genius, predictability in an unpredictable world. Soon, getting into Madoff's fund became a status symbol. It wasn't just an investment, it was initiation. A secret club for the rich and trusted, where only the chosen few were allowed to join. People didn't question how he made the money. They just felt lucky to be invited in, and that exclusivity was his greatest weapon. Because the moment you make something hard to get, people stop asking if it's real. Madoff told his clients that his secret weapon was something called split-strike conversion. It sounded sophisticated, mathematical, the kind of strategy that only the financial elite could possibly understand. And that was exactly the point. It wasn't meant to make sense. It was meant to impress, to create an illusion of mastery so complex that questioning it felt foolish. When a man who chaired NASDAQ starts throwing around terms like derivative hedging and market-neutral strategies, you don't argue. You nod, smile, and write another check. In reality, there was no strategy, no algorithm, no hidden formula. Behind those glossy statements and elegant office doors was something much simpler and infinitely darker. A printer, a spreadsheet, and a lie. Bernie Madoff was taking money from new investors and using it to pay returns to old ones. The oldest trick in financial crime. A Ponzi scheme dressed in Armani. But it worked because people wanted it to work. They wanted to believe in the legend of Bernie Madoff, the man who never lost, who delivered smooth, consistent profits when everyone else bled red. In a world terrified of risk, he sold the ultimate fantasy: certainty. Every month, his clients received statements showing steady growth. No volatility, no losses, no fear. And when something looks that perfect, you don't ask where the numbers come from, because deep down you don't want to know. Here's the terrifying part: the people who should have known didn't. The U.S. government's own watchdogs, the SEC, the very agency built to protect investors, had been warned multiple times. A single analyst named Harry Markopolos spent years screaming into the void. He ran the math, analyzed Madoff's returns, and realized something chilling. They were statistically impossible. Not improbable. Impossible. He sent the SEC detailed reports, calculations, even direct warnings. And what did they do? Nothing. They dismissed him. Not once, not twice, but over and over again. Because in their minds, Bernie Madoff wasn't a suspect and he was a legend. He had the connections, the reputation, the history. He was untouchable. And in the world of finance, reputation can blind even the smartest regulators. It's human nature. We don't just trust success, why don't we worship it? And that's how Madoff stayed invisible. He didn't need to hide his crime in the shadows. He hid it in plain sight under the blinding glow of credibility. By the time anyone truly started asking questions, the illusion had grown too big to question, and the empire of lies had already consumed billions. For nearly 30 years, Bernie Madoff's empire stood untouched, flawless on the surface, unquestioned in its brilliance. The machine worked, not because it was efficient, but because it was trusted. Every number, every statement, every handshake depended on one fragile currency: belief. As long as investors stayed calm, the illusion held. Money flowed in, fake profits flowed out, and the cycle repeated. It was a self-sustaining fantasy, powered by greed and silence. The system didn't need to be perfect. It just needed no one to panic. But in 2008, panic came. The world's financial markets imploded. Banks collapsed, fortunes vanished, and fear spread faster than any virus. Investors, terrified and desperate, began calling in their money. They wanted cash, not paper profits. They wanted proof that the fortune they'd built actually existed. And suddenly, Madoff's perfect system hit its breaking point. Withdrawal requests flooded in, billions upon billions of dollars. But behind the polished image and pristine balance sheets, there was nothing left to give. The vault was empty. The money had never been invested. It was gone, swallowed by decades of deceit. On December 10, 2008, Madoff gathered his two sons in his Manhattan penthouse. The air was heavy, silent, the weight of decades pressing down on him. He looked them in the eyes and said the words that ended everything: "It's all one big lie." The next morning, his sons turned him into the FBI. And just like that, the empire that took nearly 3 decades to build disintegrated in less than 24 hours. What investigators uncovered was staggering. Roughly $20 billion in real money had been stolen, but the illusion was far greater. Madoff's clients believed they collectively held $65 billion in wealth. Wealth that never existed. Years of success, trust, and credibility, all erased overnight. The financial world didn't just lose money that day, it lost faith. Faith in systems, in experts, in the very idea that someone could be too respected to fail. The curtain had fallen, and behind it stood a man who proved one terrifying truth. Sometimes the greatest frauds aren't hidden in the shadows. They're built in plain sight, right in front of everyone. The fallout was nothing short of catastrophic. In the weeks after the confession, the numbers started coming in, and they were horrifying. More than 4,800 clients had lost everything, not just nameless investors, but some of the most recognizable names in the world. Wall Street veterans, hedge fund managers, and billionaires who thought they'd seen every trick in the book. Even Hollywood wasn't spared. Actors like Kevin Bacon, directors like Steven Spielberg, and foundations tied to some of America's most influential figures. Charities that once funded hospitals and scholarships collapsed overnight. Entire pension funds, built over decades of honest work, vanished without a trace. Families that had trusted Madoff for generations found themselves staring at empty accounts and broken futures. The illusion that once brought comfort now left behind a crater of despair. But the financial loss was only part of the tragedy. The emotional toll was far worse. For many victims, this wasn't just about losing money. It was about losing faith. Faith in people, in systems, in themselves. The shame, the guilt, the disbelief, it was unbearable. Some couldn't live with it. A number of victims took their own lives, unable to reconcile how someone so trusted could destroy everything they'd built. Even Madoff's own family couldn't escape the curse of what he'd done. His son Mark took his own life 2 years after the arrest, on the anniversary of his father's confession. His other son Andrew died of cancer in 2014, still fighting to clear his name. The Madoff legacy, once synonymous with prestige, had become a monument to deceit. In 2009, Bernie Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in federal prison, a symbolic sentence meant to echo the magnitude of his crime. Behind bars, he maintained that he never intended for it to spiral this far out of control. That it all started small, a temporary deception to cover a shortfall, and then grew into something monstrous, something even he couldn't stop. But that's the thing about lies, they don't fade quietly. They grow, feeding on pride, on greed, on the false belief that you'll find a way to fix it before it all collapses. And when the truth finally catches up, it doesn't just destroy wealth, it destroys everything. Bernie Madoff died in prison in 2021, alone, carrying the weight of the empire he built on broken trust. He left behind a trail of ruin, and one haunting truth that still echoes across Wall Street today. Every great scam begins with one small lie, and ends with the cost of believing it. Here's the real question. How did so many intelligent, successful, wealthy people fall for something that, in hindsight, seems so obvious? The answer isn't hidden in math or finance charts, it's hidden in the human mind. Bernie Madoff didn't just sell investments. He sold certainty. In a world riddled with volatility, crashes, and uncertainty, he offered a promise that felt almost sacred. Steady, reliable profits. Month after month, year after year, he delivered the illusion of control. And when the world around them was shaking, investors clung to that stability like a lifeline. People wanted to believe him, not because they were naive, but because they were human. Logic whispered warnings in the back of their minds, but emotion drowned it out. They weren't motivated purely by greed. They were seeking security, guidance, someone who looked trustworthy enough to lead them through chaos. And Madoff looked the part. Calm, polished, experienced, the ultimate financial savior. This is what makes scams so devastatingly effective. They don't just trick your brain, they trick your heart. They prey on trust, fear, and hope. They create an illusion so seductive that even the sharpest minds suspend disbelief. Even the most sophisticated investors, people who navigate billion-dollar trades every day, can fall prey when their emotions are manipulated. In the end, Madoff's story isn't just about numbers or greed. It's about human psychology. It's about the delicate balance between trust and skepticism. And it's a chilling reminder that in finance, as in life, the most dangerous lies are the ones we want to believe. Because the truth is simple. Even the brightest minds can be fooled when their emotions outweigh their logic. And sometimes, believing is more comfortable than questioning. The Bernie Madoff story isn't just a tale about billions of dollars lost. It's a mirror held up to human nature itself. Greed, trust, reputation. When mixed together, they can blind even the sharpest, most experienced minds. Wall Street veterans, Hollywood stars, pension fund managers, none were immune. The tragedy isn't that they were careless. It's that confidence can be engineered, and illusions can be made to look like reality. Madoff's empire thrived because people wanted to believe in it. They wanted stability in a chaotic world. They wanted certainty where none existed. And that's the lesson for all of us. The next time someone whispers promises of guaranteed profits, risk-free returns, or exclusive access, take a step back. Real investing is messy. It's unpredictable. It's uncomfortable. It always has been, and it always will be. Madoff built his empire on trust, reputation, and the illusion of certainty. He ended it in handcuffs, prison walls, and broken lives. The scale of his deception is staggering, but the psychology behind it is even more terrifying. So the next time someone offers you certainty in a world built on risk, remember this story. And remember that even the most brilliant people can fall prey when emotions outweigh logic. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories that uncover the hidden truths of money, power, and deception, subscribe now. Because in the world of finance, the lessons never end, and the next story is always waiting on Wall Street.